So let's talk about this 16-flight hour to nowhere.
Yeah.
And I use that as an example of Lufthansa also having issues, the FAA having issues. I mean, what's happening right now in the airline world on the ground?
Well, I think that there were definite challenges that we saw last year as demand came back very quickly and airlines have staffed up. I mean, what I'd say at JetBlue, we've got more people now working for us than we had in 2019. We're very focused on flying our schedule. We've got a lot more reserve pilots, in-flight crew members around to make sure that we can complete those trips. We can't do anything about the weather, and weather is always going to cause a disruption, but we want to make sure that we can get people to where they want to go.
But one of the main issues is that a power cord's cut, and all of a sudden planes can't take off from Terminal 1 in JFK. I mean, this is kind of crazy things. Just ask Southwest that has to really upgrade all their systems. Is there anything that you can do on your end? Do you have to upgrade stuff? Do you have to upgrade systems?
Well, we've been going through a multi-upgrade system in our systems operations center the last few years. We've got a great team at work. I think after the adjustments we had to make last August, we did a really good job during the summer getting people to where they wanted to go, largely because of some of those upgrades that we had made. So look, I understand the frustration that exists, and it has been a very challenging year. But I mean, in the United States, about 20,000 flights happen every day, and the vast majority of those happen without any issue at all.
Fair. We just like to pick on the ones that don't, to be fair. But in general, can you give me some perspective? Does the government need to upgrade some systems here? Is the infrastructure really not adept and in tune with what your business actually does?
So, I'm very proud. The U.S. has a very safe industry. The FAA has done a tremendous job. The airlines are very committed to that partnership. But there is an opportunity for the FAA to do two things. First of all, we have to get our controllers fully staffed. And that's important because the system's safe, but what will happen if there's a shortage of controllers, we'll just see more delays and cancellations. So we've got to get controllers fully staffed. And then the FAA has a multi-year technology upgrade program. We've got to get that finished. The airlines are equipped. You get on a JetBlue airplane, we've got satellite communications, we've got datacom in the cockpits, everyone's trained to use it. But we need to get the FAA at the sort of further forward, if you like, with this technology upgrade.
Hey, Robin, it's Stephen in London.
Hey, Steve.
What's all this costing you then in terms of, you're talking about your own contingency plans, but also being affected by disruption calls elsewhere. So what does that mean for your margins and for costs?
No, it definitely has added cost. I mean, last year we had to hire a significant number of extra crew members to just make our schedule more robust, to make sure that we could fly people to where they wanted to go. And it does come at a cost. But there are so many more constraints on the system now than there were in 2019. All airlines have to do this. We've all got more people than we had before. We're flying airplanes less hours per day than we were before. And we're doing that because we want to make sure in the US that the system is more robust. And so it does come at a cost, but there's a much longer term cost if we can't fly people reliably to where they want to go.
Does that mean, though, for passengers that you're going to be talking about people having to pay more as well?
Well, fares have gone up in many cases, but I would say the biggest factor on that is fuel. I mean, if I compare what we're paying for fuel compared to 2019, we're seeing a very significant increase in cost, and it is the largest cost that any airline has. So, I think as capacity comes back, hopefully as fuel starts to come down, you'll see fares low. But I mean, I think that's one of the best things about JetBlue as well. We are known for bringing lower fares, and we're going to continue to do that.
Good sales pitch.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good job. And also, fuel costs in theory should be coming down. Just look at oil today, for example. Okay, let's get to Spirit Airlines. Any clarity on what the DOJ is going to do if it's going to sue to stop the pending deal?
Well, we're working through the process with DOJ. We're still going through that now. I don't want to comment on that. I want to be respectful of the process.
But do you feel more optimistic? But scale of 1 to 10, 10 being everything sails through easy peasy. Where are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm going to not give a score because I'm always wrong with numbers. But look, we agree with a lot of concerns the Department of Justice have expressed about airline competition. I've actually been making comments on this for years and years and years. We just believe the best thing that we can do to make a more competitive industry is to enable a bigger JetBlue. When JetBlue flies on the market, fares come down and service improves. We were the first airline to put live TV in the back of the seats. We've had free Wi-Fi for 10 years. We have the most legroom in coach. We don't overbook flights. And we offer low fares. No one else is doing all of that. And so with the merger with Spirit, we'll just be able to do that to a lot more places more quickly.
If you do manage to get the merger through, though, how are you going to avoid the problems that bigger operators have when it comes to, I mean, there's so many of them we can list, but there are so many issues about becoming a larger operator. How will you be able to keep that model as tight as you have it now?
Well, I think actually, you know, the biggest challenge that we have as JetBlue is just our concentration in the Northeast airspace, Stephen. I mean, if you look at last year, and nearly 2/3 of the total air traffic control delays happened in the JetBlue network. We operate in and out of the most congested airspace. By actually having a bigger, more national network, it will actually reduce the impact that we have in terms of some of these difficult geographies and delays. So we actually think it's going to make our operation much easier. Plus, Spirit and JetBlue, we fly the same airplanes, we have the same engines, so there's huge benefits operationally with a single fleet type.
Any conversation about divestitures and stuff with the DOJ? How's that going?
Well, again, the good news is we came up front straight away with the most significant divestiture offer of any merger in the US. You know, bear in mind, when these large airlines merged before, they had to do nothing or very little. So, you know, we've offered that in the New York airports, Boston, and Fort Lauderdale. And, you know, we think that that's going to enable both new entrants to come into the market in a way that they would not be able to do today, and it's going to enable a bigger JetBlue.
Let's talk about something Airbus said earlier this week. They are reducing the number of planned JetBlue deliveries this year. You had mentioned 22 in January. That's probably going to be lower. Does that, and it's really a supply chain issue backup, does that slow any kind of expansion plans you have?
Well, we're all seeing delays. We're all seeing delays with airplanes. And yes, of course, I mean, it means either you can't grow as quickly as you like, or you have to keep older airplanes flying for longer. So yes, it does have an impact. I think the good news about a Spirit transaction is that is the fastest way to grow JetBlue.
When you look at the macro situation, are you concerned when you see layoffs in companies like tech and corporations cutting back on discretionary spending? You know, airlines have been fairly bullish about the future, but I'm wondering if there's any of those worries playing on your mind now when you look at the rest of the year.
No, it's a good question. You know, something we think about a lot, and obviously no one wants to see anybody laid off. I think, though, I'd point out that there were many companies still with significant numbers of openings. You know, I know in our own IT team, you know, we had openings, and we're now being able to hire people that was hard to hire before. So not right now. I mean, right now we are still seeing incredible demand for air travel. There's definitely been a shift in, you know, people wanting to spend money on experiences, and we're continuing to see that. So right now, no, still very bullish on what we're seeing on demand.
Does that mean that you're hiring some of the laid off tech workers? Is that what you just kind of said?
Well, we're hiring tech workers. I mean, some come from the tech companies, some come from other companies, but yeah, I mean, again, we have a very big modernization program at JetBlue, and we're hiring for sure.
To that point, how long is your visibility? In terms of actual demand? Like, it feels okay now. When do you get cloudy?
Yeah, I would say we have good visibility 3 or 4 months out.
Okay.
You know, and I think beyond that, I mean, we feel good about the summer, although we don't obviously have much visibility yet. But certainly what we're seeing really through to March or April right now is still incredible strength.
We heard from Airbus earlier in the week having trouble with their production targets for one of their types of jets. I'm wondering, how has Airbus reduced the number of planned JetBlue deliveries from this year? You mentioned 22 in January. Is that going to affect what you're expecting to get from the plane maker?
Yeah, we had reduced deliveries last year and this year. We expect the same next year as well. So we've been planning that. When we gave capacity guidance on our January call, we had factored into that guidance. We've been able to mitigate it somewhat by flying older airplanes for longer, but there's no doubt that we would grow a little bit more if we didn't have these delays.
So I'm going to Paris in the summer for my husband's birthday. Am I going to fly on JetBlue?
Hopefully, yes. Why not?
When am I going to know if I'm going to be flying on JetBlue?
Well, when are you going?
I'm going in July.
Okay, I think you'll be good.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Last question here. When you look at expansion, like Paris, for example, What does the European economy look like for you right now? I appreciate that you don't have the bookings to really say, but in terms of, say, London and then Europe, what are you envisioning?
Well, we're expecting a very strong summer. We certainly had a very strong fall with our UK bookings. Again, we're not seeing anything yet to suggest that the slowdown is having an impact. And I think whilst it's easy to remember that in the US, things opened up really sort of more than a year ago domestically, about this time last year, we still had some countries with testing requirements. That was a huge, I mean, who wants to go somewhere, maybe get COVID and then get stuck? So it was a huge deterrent. So there's still this whole millions, tens of millions of people who still haven't taken that international trip. So we're expecting an incredibly strong summer, both out of Europe and out of the US.